this is Olivia Cognet. We met in Paris years ago. We were both doing a trade show called Premiere Classe. Olivia has since then moved to LA and completely embraced the California lifestyle. She launched a ceramics business called Maison Bisous. And this is a little story about what inspires her, how she works, and how she's doing what she's doing.
Okay.
I've met you 5 or 6 years ago in Paris at a show, and at that moment you were a shoe queen, correct?
Yeah.
And what was the name of the company? I forget.
Apologie, Apologie.
That's right. And what
Yeah.
happened?
So, I've been designing fashion for everyone since I'm 20. So my main job was, and it's still the same thing here. I'm a shoes and bag designer for bigger brands like Lanvin, Isabelle Marant, and everything. And one random guy pushed me to do my brand. So I did like 10 pieces because it was not my dream to have this brand, because the pitch was like, do an affordable shoe brand, cute, girly, and I'm not really cute and girly, so I like doing that. It was fun. It was really like it learned me a lot, like business wise.
Mm-hmm.
So after like 5 years, I decided to sell the brand to some people that I knew, and we moved in LA because my husband got a job here. And when I was pregnant when we moved here, and I got the baby when we arrived. We got a little Americano, my son, and I started to work again in fashion to make money. But I was like, oh, I need to meet people and to do things with my hand, because in America, I feel like fashion is a bit different. You don't go to the factories. Before, I was going every week, either in Italy or Portugal, to the factory.
Mm-hmm.
To develop the shoes and the bags. It's really like hands-on. And here I was not going anywhere, so I was like missing this part. So I started to do ceramic like randomly in a class, at night. So I started that, and I fell in love with the medium. So after 1 year, I was so excited. Every time I was going there, I was doing bigger and bigger pots. I learned super quick with an awesome teacher. And I started to buy my own gear, for my studio.
Mm-hmm.
So I started really like to do my stuff on my garage, and I was doing a show in LA called Eco Park Craft Fair, which is like super cool fashion. It's craft, but not cheesy,
Uh-huh.
Super elevated. And I started to sell to decorator a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then like I did that 3 times. And I'm still doing that. It's just like now it's not happening with the COVID, but it's every 6 months. And I build my base of clients. And I work with a decorator and stuff like that.
When I read on your website, it says you have the manifesto for slow life. So it says create, don't produce, curate, don't consume, and prefer handmade. Where did that come from?
I love like when I buy some ceramic or when I buy something vintage, I love that it's like a unique pieces that nobody has and that you can keep forever. And I felt like I wanted to design something that are unique and you can keep forever, and that are not like the thing that your neighbor gonna have. Or I think the world is gonna go more toward these things too, with like the COVID. I mean, I hope so. Even the house, we have a house here. We put it super vintage, untouched, like the floor are terrazzo from the 60s, the door in wood, but everything is beautiful. And we just services or, like, I don't know, you say like...
Yeah, you just like a light touch renovation,
yes,
nothing massive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the quality is amazing. I'm so fan of it. Like I'm fed up of shitty things.
Well, so the pieces that you said 1960s, the pieces that you're working on have very much a mid-century modern touch to them. Like,
well, I think it's because California is all about that. First of all, so you have all this beautiful architecture, like all this feeling, and mid-century is super strong here. And also because I'm from south of France, and I grew up like next to Valoris, which is a little village where they were doing a lot of ceramic. And Picasso, for example, was doing all his ceramic there, and he made like this. It was really like a basic works doing ceramic, just like functional. and he made like functional objects, something like a masterpiece. And I love this idea of like something that is nothing to bring into something else. I love this idea, but I don't know if it's just like my inspiration for the moment, I guess.
Is your creative process one where you're just going into clay, you have an idea and it's all about the color and the shape, or you're doing some research and something inspires you? Like, how do you?
I'll show you. So I'm doing research. I have some board, but also I love to sketch. You know, I'm doing sketch all the time because it's how I work usually. So I don't know. I sketch and then I start to try to make my sketch in clay, and then it comes up to a totally different things because the material is super. It's pretty technique ceramic because you can break everything into seconds, explode it on the kiln. Or if it's too thick, or if there's too much torsion, like there's often. I mean, I broke so many pieces.
But so the pieces that you're building, they are all hand built. You don't pour into a mold, right?
No, I'm gonna do a residency in Valoris, the village I was talking about, next year, and I'm sure I'm gonna learn a ton of things, like being with the guy who, you know, the old guys that were doing ceramics.
So you're doing it with somebody.
It's going to be my first time next year.
But I wanted to ask you, actually, when you were talking about moving from France to LA, what's it like to run a business in France versus running it in the United States?
Everything is so much easier for me. Like in France, like first of all, like all the paperwork, the tax is super complicated. And the economy is not super good in France too. So I was so surprised that people were buying my pots when I did this first fair, you know. So I was like, that will never happen to France. I always collect ceramics, but I never tried before, never. And I'm super handy, so I can do whatever, you know. But I never tried like the full process, and I really fall in love with this process. I mean, medium, because you understand every step of the process, and you can do from scratch to the end without the help of anyone. And also, I think like life is slower in LA, you know, than in big cities. So you can have a nice job, but you also can have a life, which was not the case in Paris. I'm so glad because I have a kid, I can take care of him, I can do ceramic at night because I have space in my garage to do it. I have my kiln.
You feel at home in LA. You feel good?
Oh yeah, I mean, I love it more than my husband, I think, but I love everything here. The sun, the nature, and the city. Like everything's slower here.
Before I let you go, I have two questions.
Yes.
One of them is, we talked a little bit about inspiration, and obviously I looked up the Valoris, that little town that you were talking about, and you being in the Mecca of mid-century design. Is there anything else, like, are these things that are conjured up in your head, or is there things that you reach for in terms of inspiration? Like your go-to, what do you look to? Or is it all sort of?
I'm looking a lot of vintage. For me, it's like a super good inspiration. And afterwards, like art and sculpture, like I'm trying to keep, I love it. I miss so much to go to museum.
Your color scheme is really cool to me because it's very much LA, like, and it's very much 1970s LA. Like, do you think that it's just sort of intuitive, or you were sort of picking that up and placing it into the pottery?
I think you're right. It's intuitive, and it's really like the clay that I think because there's so many options for clay. And I fall in love with like this terracotta, very like this really dark color. And raw, I love the raw. I love like brut architecture as well, you know. So I love this like really raw thing, super like sharp shapes, and the white more like soft. Also like because my customer, they always want white, so I'm trying to make a more intricate white, you know.
So more texture, more layers.
Yes, I love this. Like, I don't know if you saw my crackled texture. Like, I think it's super nice and make the thing different. And in Valoris, they do this lava glaze that is like a lava thing. And I'm trying to make it, but I'm not as good as the Valoris one. You know, like this kind of, mine is fucked up, but you know, like
super
organic. So it's why I want to do like this residency. I want to learn all the formulas because glaze are like chemistry.
Cool. All right, one final question so you can go into your studio. Is there anything that you find, usually like I ask people like something that has recently inspired you, something that has made you cry, something that made you like really excited. It could be a song, book, an experience, something that you share with your husband, your kid, like anything that comes to mind that like you would just be like, this sort of touched me recently and I'd love for you to know about it.
I read a book that I really love. No, Design as Art. Sorry,
Design as Art.
Super cool.
Ooh.
Like, okay, you're a designer, but you can be an art. I mean, something like I love the mix between design and art.
Of course,
super
that
cool.
actually makes perfect sense to me. And what was it specifically that?
That the guy, it's a book from the 60s, I think, from an Italian artist, which is also a designer. But I love like that is to say like you need to push your design that they can become art or something like that. It's pretty interesting. You know, I want to go out and go to some exhibitions so bad. You know, internet is not doing the same effect. Like we went to a museum just before the lockdown in LA. What's the name again? And they were Barbara and I'm so
Barbara
bad.
Hepworth.
Yes,
Barbara Hepworth.
Yes, I'm so shitty with name. She has beautiful sculpture there. I was like, oh.
So you do see, like you go to see exhibitions, like in Paris. Like, what was your favorite museum to go to?
I love the Art Décoratif. You know this place? Art Deco.
Right.
It's really good. When they have all this furniture and fashion and jewelry, like you should go. It's amazing.
I will.
It's a big museum. Oh, and also Valentine Schlegel. That's a good reference. I love this girl. She was doing all this fireplace in plaster in the 60s, 70s. I can send you the name. Valentine Schlegel. I received the book during the quarantine. I mean, I think I had it before, but I reopened it during the moving and I was like, oh, it's beautiful.
And she was doing ceramics as well?
Yes.
And she's she's French?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
She's like, yeah, I think 60s she was, you know, all these walls that are carved in plaster, white. Yes. She was making all these things in the 70s. And before we moved here, I wanted to do a room like that. So I really like tried to document myself on that. But my husband was like, no, you're not doing that. It's going to be messy and disgusting. I was like, gosh, I do that in the garage. That's fine.
Anyway, well, thank you so much. It was really nice to connect with you. I really love the fact that it was such a random connection and that,
it's cool
that we're back in touch.
I'm going to leave today for a trip, but I'll send everything next week.
Nice. Where are you going? Somewhere fun?
No, we're going to Ojai. Ojai is like, it's a place 1 hour or 2 hour driving from here. And they are making a lot of wine. It's like a little valley and it's beautiful. It's between mountain and so you have cactus next to huge trees and you can horse ride. You can. We're going to a motel with some friends, but we are so happy. It's the first weekend out since the thing happened. So
I know. Enjoy.